I'm Just B. Jordan, and today we're talking selling books at conferences. Why? Because I got a check in the mail from a writers' conference I attended this summer because I sold books in their bookstore. At writers' conferences, there is always a bookstore set up at the conference where attendees who have been published can sell copies of their work. So when you're at a writers' conference, you can walk through the bookstore and see all these books that everyone there have had published. It's really a pretty awesome experience. When authors choose to make copies of their book available at a conference bookstore, they typically sell the books on consignment. This means that the conference takes an amount of the proceeds from your book sales. Some people may see that as a ploy for them to just get more money or something, but really it makes sense. Having copies of your work in a conference bookstore is basically free advertising. At some point, almost everyone attending the conference will walk through the bookstore and take a look at everything. It's a great way to put the cover of your book in front of a lot of people that might not know you online. When you sign up for the conference, you let them know if you're published and if you'll be bringing copies of your book to put in the conference bookstore. You show up with copies of your book, find a place for them on the tables, and typically conference volunteers work as the bookstore cashier and they take care of the rest. But some conferences give you the option of paying to have an entire table as your personal display. This is a great option for authors who have a number of titles, publishers who have a number of authors they want to display together, or even cover artists. If you want to get all fancy, you can lay out bookmarks or business cards with copies of your book on the table. But the smart people bring one book stand for each of their titles to hold it at a nice upright angle as a beautiful display for people walking past rather than the titles being flat and boring and sad. I admit I have not brought a book stand to a conference with me yet. I need to order them. I have the sad books laying flat, not up in a beautiful display. After the conference has ended, if there are still copies of your book left, which typically there are unless it's the hot new thing that's fresh off the press and everybody's snatching up copies, then you just take your extra copies home with you. But first, you count how many copies you have left and let the bookstore worker know so they can make sure all their numbers add up. Then you just wait, and typically within a couple of weeks, your check comes in the mail. Which is really weird, but fun. In a weird way. And that's really all there is to selling books on consignment at a writers' conference. If you haven't been to a writers' conference yet, I hope this was informative for you, and you should definitely go to a writing conference. Best decision you'll ever make. If you have gone to a writing conference and sold books, this was probably really boring for you. Thanks for watching.